Okay, good afternoon, Dylan. It's a pleasure to meet you. Honest introduced you to me only online, so I never got to even see a video of you. But you're photogenic on your website.
Oh, thank you.
You look a little bit younger.
Yeah, well, I'm 42 years old, but
On the
I guess
website, you were maybe just out of school, maybe.
there's no touch-ups on the photos there.
Oh, there was. It
I
was.
just I had a good day, I guess.
Oh, okay. Sounds like.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to meet you too. Thanks for the opportunity to speak with your viewers.
Yeah.
Excited to share my message.
Yeah, any friend of Honest is always welcome. He knows how to find the right people.
Mhm.
So thank you, Honest. So let's first introduce you. Which district are you in?
Sure. So I live in Potrero Hill. That's District 10.
Oh, District 10.
I've been there for 12 years now.
Okay. And all of a sudden you decided I need to do something about the situation in San Francisco?
Yes. So I'm not a professional politician, obviously.
Okay.
I'm a scientist and an engineer. Got
Okay.
a PhD in neuroscience. And,
Okay.
attended MIT as an undergraduate. So I've always had a very quantitative background, but I have family roots going back 5 generations in San Francisco, so I care deeply about the city and the people in it. And I feel like the politicians that have been running the country or the city have been
Failed
focused
us.
on the wrong things. And I hear a lot of talk about band-aids, temporary solutions, but nobody's really talking about the root causes of all of these issues. And so I wanted to throw my hat in the ring and introduce some ideas that I think are important that could really tackle the root causes and give us lasting change for once.
Did you hear that 4 years ago, Mark Benioff donated 36 million or 26 million to find out the root cause of homelessness? He gave that to a doctor at UC.
Yeah, I've seen the study at UCSF. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did they come up with the root cause? Did they come up?
Well, as we all know, it's a very complicated problem.
Yeah. There's many issues.
It's not a one-size-fits-all solution, and it's not a one-size-fits-all problem that why people become homeless. There's a spectrum. There's mental illness, there's drug abuse problems that start before becoming homeless, but oftentimes when people become homeless, that's when their mental illness and drug addiction starts to develop. It's a very stressful life being on the street, being constantly concerned about getting assaulted or
Of
robbed.
course.
So,
Some don't
Yeah.
care. But I remember when Gavin Newsom was running,
Mhm.
and I was going to all the debates because I was a debate addict. And I remember one thing he said. He said, many mayors have tried to solve the homeless problem, and none of them have succeeded.
Mhm.
So then after Mayor Newsom, there was Farrell and Lee and London Breed, and they're still struggling with the issues. I mean, even though they have dozens of consultants and
Billions of dollars.
and increasing the budgets and all that, but the problem seems to be plagued. I mean, the city seems to be plagued by the issues still. So these experts have not found the solution.
What I'd like to do is I look at the data and I look for evidence for what will or won't work. And
Yeah.
we have models, cities, not in San Francisco, but elsewhere in the country,
Yeah.
where they've made great progress, such as in Houston, where they've reduced their homeless population by 60% since
Yeah.
2015. There's other communities like Bakersfield that are subscribing to the Built for Zero program. It's a whole methodology for how to reduce your homeless population. And it revolves around, number one, you do have to have a strong mayor who's willing to focus on it and drive progress throughout the entire administration, which I don't think we've really had. We've had mayors that have been kind of distracted by many other things.
Okay.
But also, you have to consolidate accountability in a task force or, just a single group of individuals who are stakeholders from throughout the continuum of care. And then you have to have a technology platform that gives you real-time data
On each of these
name,
people?
each individual who is on our street, why are they there? What do they need to get off the street? What have we tried for them that hasn't worked yet?
Oh, okay.
We don't have any of that data,
But they
so we're
move
flying
around.
blind.
They're never in the same spot.
We're flying blind, and we need people who are able to collect that data. And anytime that any person interacts with a homeless individual, that there should be a record of that. And,
Okay,
you know,
so let's say you interact with a homeless,
Mhm.
and he is, let's say, on Market Street.
yeah.
And the next day he goes on Hayes Street, and the next day on Portrayal
Yeah.
Hill. How are you going to track him down?
If I know his name and I see his face, I'll know who
Oh,
he is.
yeah, but there's thousands of them out there, so how are you going to track them? There is no, unless you put a bracelet that's a
No,
trackable.
we don't
No,
need to do
but,
that,
but it's hard to track someone who goes to the beach, then to the park, then to the city.
People have habits, and they tend to follow those habits. And you know, if we're offering a pathway to find housing and services that they need, then that's going to be an incentive for them to continue to stay in touch with us and not attempt to evade us.
Oh, okay,
You
okay.
know, if it's about a punitive thing, if
Yeah,
we're just saying
they don't want to
we want
see
to
you
track
again.
you to throw
Oh,
you in
yeah,
jail,
yeah.
or we're going to keep an eye on you and
They won't
kick
see
you out.
Oh, they
Yeah,
don't.
sure, maybe they're going to walk away. But you know, a lot of the people in that study that you mentioned from UCSF, you know,
Yeah.
they found that the majority of the homeless population that they talk to, they're from San Francisco.
Yeah,
And, you know,
yeah.
they're from the Bay Area or California.
Yeah.
So these aren't, you know, there's buckets, like I said earlier, there's different buckets. So yeah, there's a bucket of people who come here
Yeah.
as drug tourists who want to just get high on the streets, but there's other buckets of people that are from San Francisco, and we owe it to them. You know, they deserve our respect and our help.
Okay.
They have basic human dignity just like all of us.
Yeah. Well, I talked to some of them. They're not all there, to be honest with you.
True. Yeah. If you're at the point where you're on the street getting high every single day, all day,
You lose it.
you need serious intervention. I believe
Yeah,
that.
delusion.
True.
They are delusion.
Yeah. Mhm.
One I talked to, he said, "Oh, I just built a shower right here,
Yeah.
on Embarcadero Plaza." The other one told me, so they think they have done all these things that never happened. He thinks he makes money performing on the street. So I went the next day. I'm so naive. I thought he was going to perform at 3. He wasn't. I mean, I'm so naive. And then there was another guy. He tells me all kinds of things, and none of it was true.
It's difficult because many of these people are living in a different world. They're suffering from extreme psychosis, you know, mental illness that's untreated.
Yeah.
It can continue to get worse.
Yeah,
and
you got to
worse
be a
over
doctor
time.
to pick up on that right away.
I'm definitely in favor of having a triage center where when we find someone
Yeah.
who's on the street who's clearly out of it,
Yeah.
we should take them to this triage center. We should reach out, find out if they have any family that's out there looking for them. Sometimes
They do. Sometimes they do.
I have a friend that I knew from high school who left his family. This was
And
down in
came
Los
to San
Angeles.
Francisco.
Not to San Francisco, but he was wandering the streets of Long Beach barefoot
He
for
had
a
a
couple of
problem
weeks,
for
and his
a while.
family had no idea where he was, and they
Oh.
were desperately looking for him. So it's not always the case that there's no family there. They may just not know that their loved one is here on the streets.
Oh, and they don't have a phone.
Yeah.
Half of them lose their phone right away. I mean, they lose their phone very quickly, even if you give them one of those city phones.
But it's it's a very difficult problem, but we have to be systematic about it. We have to keep an eye on what are the outcomes and continue to evolve our efforts so that we find what's working and what's not, and focus on the positive results. And we're not going about it in a systematic way right now. That's why it's not working.
So Mayor Reed has not done that.
It's been a mismanagement problem, not a money problem. We've
Okay.
thrown so much money at it, and it's comparable to what Houston has thrown at the problem. And you compare their results versus ours. Clearly, with that same amount of money, we could have done much more than we have.
Okay, I assume you watched the 3 debates.
I've seen parts of them. Yeah.
Parts of them, but some of them had very hard proposition. Like Lowry said, you will not be allowed to stay on the street. I mean, you will be taken off the street. That would be like radical.
Yeah.
No if, no buts. You go inside, whether you like it or not. And of course, Mayor Farrell said that he got rid of all the tents and all that. And Mayor Breed announced yesterday that starting next week, she'll get rid of all the tents.
Mm-hmm.
I guess
saw that. Yeah.
you saw that. So they all have harsh measures coming up, and they're all trying to find the solution.
I look at this as kind of putting the cart before the horse when you talk about we're going to take a hard line stance and we're going to sweep everyone off the streets.
Yeah.
Where will these people go?
Yeah.
Mayor Breed has had 12 years in power between the Board of Supervisors and being mayor. She could have, throughout this whole time, under the previous grants pass ruling, she could have put all of those people into housing if she had figured out a way to build it.
Yeah, she
hasn't done that.
She doesn't have enough.
The court said you can't take someone off of the street and confiscate all of their belongings and essentially ruin their life because of the crime of being homeless, right?
Yeah.
They said you can put someone into housing and then you get them off the street that way. But we all along had the ability to
they don't want to give up their belongings, so they don't go inside.
But public safety laws, we could have always been enforcing those, and we weren't. It was always an excuse for the mayor not to do her job. So great, now she's finally in August of an election year deciding she's going to get tough on crime and tough on homelessness and everything's very aggressive. But where's the humanity? Where's the compassion for these people? I mean, I'm not saying I want to live in a city where these people are living in encampments. I want to live in a city that actually takes real steps to help people and place them into viable housing options, not a shelter that's massive.
Let's say I met someone today. He was just passing through San Francisco.
Yeah.
And homeless. I told him where to go to get free food for his dog, and then he said, "I'm waiting for a Greyhound, but I like San Francisco. I might stay longer." And he has no job, nothing. And I said, "These people, they're just wanderers, right? They here, they want to be like tourists, and then if they like it, they stay. We don't know if they're gonna stay or not stay. So it's hard decision to make if you meet them like I did today." It's hard for me to decide, he's going to leave Sunday on the Greyhound, or he's going to like it so much that he decides to stay. But, so the caseworker will have to decide that. Also, there's another candidate, Asha Safai. He's also from MIT. He didn't in his...
I believe he has a master's in civil engineering.
He didn't mention anything like tracking people like you did, technologically, how to find them, whatever. He didn't come up with your idea.
He doesn't have the same background I do. Where I was in a technology company for over 12 years. I worked for Tesla. I was developing cutting-edge electric vehicle technology. And so I know firsthand what it's like to be able to use data effectively to come up with a great outcome. In my case, I was making sure that the vehicles were safe and people didn't die. In this case, people are also dying on the street because we're not doing a good enough job of ensuring that they're not just living day in, day out in this drug haze, or mentally ill. So
do you think you have the means to test your idea before anyone takes office? Are you going to test it?
Well, as I mentioned earlier, we have programs that are already in existence. And we have Houston as an example. We have
they did that?
14 communities
that they did what
subscribed to Built for Zero. And they achieved what they call functional zero, which is defined as putting more people into housing each month than have ended up on the street. And they can
so they're using technology to do that too?
They have the data to prove that they're actually able to make this happen. I mean, it's not just purely a technology solution, but technology is at the core of it because it enables us to keep track of what are we doing and what's working and what's not. Without that, you have no idea, right?
So you can borrow their technology and do it here?
I'm sure we could, speak with them and learn from all of their experiences and either take the systems they have in place directly or adapt them to San Francisco. We have we are the tech capital of the world. You know, it'd be pretty sad if we couldn't find
a solution,
a few people who are able to code
to
this
do
up
it.
in a month or two, right? I mean,
no, I mean with all the consultants that we have at City Hall.
That's a whole other topic. I mean, consultants.
I mean, they didn't come up with that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, consultants. Don't get me started on consultants. I think we spend far too much money on consultants, and you know, we when I was at Tesla, we were forbidden from working with consultants.
Really?
The company was instructed everyone in the company, you do it yourself.
Oh.
Or we hire the person who's going to do it themselves.
Oh.
Otherwise, you waste a ton of money
on two people.
You have this back and forth. You know, it's slower and it's less effective and more costly in the long run.
Okay, so you don't think they have come up with the idea of going consult these other cities or whatever you mentioned?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, well, I mean, if it works, yeah, I mean, implement it. But there probably might be some people who say, "Oh, I thought about it. It's my idea." But it's okay if it's somebody else's idea as long as it works, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm always happy to attribute ideas to whoever I got them from. So, yeah, I didn't come up with this idea. I saw it in the newspapers. The New York Times covered the Houston case multiple times. And,
Mm-hmm.
you know, the Built for Zero program has been written about elsewhere. And
Okay.
so I just keep my eyes open. And when I see something that I read that seems to make sense, I keep note of it. And
oh, okay.
I'll keep
That's
talking
good
about
that
it.
you did that.
Yeah.
So you have 3.5 months to make yourself known.
Yeah.
Thanks to Honest, I met you.
That's right.
But you shake hands all day. Is that what you do?
I do a lot of outreach. I've been walking around, you know, like on commercial corridors on Geary Street in the Richmond, you know, on Mission Street, 24th Street, introducing myself
you have
to
a thing that
small.
says running for mayor?
I have a little button. I've got flyers, you know, posters I'm putting up in windows when small businesses agree to it. I've actually met with a lot of positive feedback. A lot of business owners are more than happy to talk to a mayoral candidate about their issues, you know, and you know, when I was on Geary, I walked into the discount cigarette store that recently was in the news. You might have seen it when these people drove a car through the front of it.
Oh, okay.
I was talking to Zayed there, and he was telling me how they are $60,000 out of pocket now.
Oh, no.
As a result of that. So
it was an accident or something.
Oh no, it was on purpose. So they people could come in and steal all of their stuff.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah.
So
the police caught them, thankfully, but he still.
So
had to
these
pay for
people,
the
do they
repair.
ask you how come you're not on the debate stage?
I get that occasionally, and it's an interesting question. I mean,
And you tell them it's because this and that?
well, I mean, what's your theory?
Maybe you got in the race after the debate started.
I've been in the race, you know, been qualified from the time that the qualification period ended, which was in the middle of June. A lot of these debates were starting in May.
Okay.
But I was already campaigning in January.
Oh, okay. And
I filed my statement of intent on February 15th. There was a field of 53 people. So
and how many are there now?
Now there's 13.
13. That's
13 qualified. That's not too many, you know. That's fewer than we had running in the 2020 presidential debate, and the Democratic Party still
one by
managed
one
to
they
find
died.
all of them,
Yeah.
you know, and get them on the debate stage. But I recognize it's an unwieldy format if you have that many people on one stage. So
Yeah.
I'd like to see smaller debates between fewer numbers of candidates that are more like a real debate where you're
I've
getting
seen
back and
8
forth.
during the last election. There was 8 first on the debate stage, and then it got down.
Yeah.
But now,
But I'm here I'm talking to you, right? And this will
You're
hopefully
here
give me a
to-
big bump in my visibility.
I've just asked. I'm gonna ask you just a question that other people might ask.
Sure. Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I just scrolled through your website. So your top 3 priorities are the homelessness, and then the guaranteed.
Well, the top 3 priorities that I want to address, the problems
Yeah.
are homelessness, open air drug use and dealing,
Oh yeah.
and public safety. But
Which is all together kind of
there,
tight.
a lot of them are kind of, they're sort of intertwined.
Intertwined.
With each
Yes,
other, right?
yes, yes.
But as far as my policy proposals,
Yeah.
my number one policy proposal is a universal basic income.
Yeah.
I also want to bring universal social housing to the city,
Yeah.
borrowing from ideas from Singapore and Vienna. And then I want to, as we were talking about earlier, end chronic homelessness through a systematic approach.
Oh, okay. So you think these cities that you just mentioned have found some kind of a solution?
Yeah, I think it would be crazy for us not to do what other people have already shown works.
Okay.
Right. So
Okay.
so I think we should.
And
be
they have
working
as
all around
much
that.
money as we do?
In many cases, they have less money, but they're doing it more effectively because
Okay.
they're managing it more effectively.
Okay. So you want to take that job because you think you could solve it?
I think as a mayor, I would bring in the right people, the people who could actually solve it. Of course,
Yeah.
as a mayor, you're not doing everything all by yourself, right?
Yeah.
It's about how
There's
you assemble a team.
40,000 employees in the city.
So it's about putting in place people who not who are loyal to you first and foremost, but who are competent, who can do the job that
Okay.
you're tasking them with, and
Yeah.
that's a problem. We've put that on its head right now. If you look at the mayor's hiring practices and who has gotten jobs within the city, it's pretty clear that it's not always about their qualifications or their abilities. It's
It was
about
a referral.
how loyal are they going to be to her. That's why she handed out those forms, the pre-signed resignation forms to all the people who she assigned to, appointed to commissions, right? I mean, she has this obsession with maintaining power and ensuring that people are going to do what she wants them to do. And there's also just a general focus on optics rather than on outcomes.
Okay.
And that's why we have such terrible outcomes.
Okay.
If all you're focused on is optics, then sure, like you're going to have the great press releases and press conferences and photo ops and everything. All that's in place. She's done a great job with that. But we're not getting the outcomes we need.
If you become mayor, will you miss your job as a technology person?
Maybe a little bit, but I'll continue to dabble here and there. I've for my campaign, I've been doing a lot of it myself. I worked on, the website for myself a bit.
That's good. That's a good
and
website.
Thank you. I've been doing as much as I can DIY
On your own.
to save money, and that's how I would run the city too. It would be about being scrappy. All the lessons I learned at Tesla all those years. I joined the company in 2011. We had less than 1,500 employees at the time, and now it's grown to over 100,000 worldwide. But at that time, we didn't have $900 billion to play around with.
That's
right? It was a very small company still, and we were still struggling
to huge proportion.
We barely survived, and part of how we survived was being very frugal with the resources we had. And,
Okay.
we call it being scrappy, making your limited resources stretch as far as possible. And I don't see that kind of fiscal responsibility in our city currently. We have almost 11,000 contracts with 4,000 vendors, and what I would do is on day one I'd be going through with a fine-tooth comb. I want to do an audit: who is delivering on their contracts and who is not, and let's sue some of these people who are for breach of contract. Let's get rid of end contracts early if we're not getting what we're paying for. Let's make sure first and foremost we get what we're paying for, and then in the longer term I want to see us bring a lot more of this in-house, bring it to city departments, because we know going forward we'll always have a need to house our citizens. That's not going to go away. So if this is an ongoing expense that we know about, why would we continue to pay top dollar to outsource it to other companies that are just essentially subsidized with public money to do a bad job?
Yeah, but I heard it's to create jobs, but that's a lame excuse.
Yeah.
But I understand people need their jobs. I mean, even when Mayor Britt cut out some of the nonprofits, she said she felt bad because she was eliminating a lot of jobs. So yeah, you have to look at it without any feeling for whoever is going to lose his job.
One of the reasons I'm so passionate about universal basic income is because I think that is the a perfect response to that kind of problem. If we have people living in the city who are, out of a job for whatever reason,
Yeah.
they need an extra help, a
True.
little step up from
Yeah.
us as a city to give them the breathing room they need to maybe they need to go back to school, whatever it is, however they
they'll get
find a new
some
job.
will get unemployment for a while, but not
Yeah.
forever.
Yeah.
And then they need to find something that would fit their qualification. But the good news about San Francisco, I heard we have very low unemployment, like 3.5.
Yeah, the overall in the country is doing much better for unemployment. So that's great. We should celebrate that.
Okay. But if we cut too many jobs from the city, the percentage will go up.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure they can find jobs elsewhere.
Oh, okay, yeah. You have to think about it. How you're gonna relocate these people to other jobs?
Yeah, I mean, the city has a responsibility to spend money effectively. It's taxpayer money that the city employees are entrusted with, and if it's just being wasted on, I mean, we're not talking about good hardworking job here. We're talking about like gross malfeasance,
duplicates,
like fraud and just neglect. We're paying a lot of these private building management companies to look after our public housing projects, and SROs that are infested with rats, and they've got maintenance that hasn't been taken care of for decades.
Oh, no.
I mean, they're falling apart, and people are living in squalid
very
conditions.
bad conditions.
SF Chronicle has done some really great research on this. Written hard-hitting articles pointing out how we're failing these people that we're supposedly helping, and yet that company gets money. Those people who are getting paid to essentially warehouse these people in hellish conditions. To me is unconscionable.
The basic income for every one of these people will come from city coffers?
Yes. So a lot of it will. So there's three main sources to pay for. One, it starts to pay for itself pretty quickly.
Really?
Because
it goes back in the economy.
So it's gonna boost the local economy. We'll get more tax revenues that way.
Okay.
It also will shift a lot of the health care away from the emergency room. So right now we're paying like $25 million for maybe a dozen homeless people to use our ambulances every year.
Oh, it's very expensive.
It's very expensive. They're
and the fire
using
department
our city emergency services vastly disproportionately. So a universal basic income, together with all these other programs I'm talking about that offer real treatment for drug addiction and mental illness, that will save us money very quickly. And then in the long term, a UBI will reduce crime rates. It will reduce the need for us to...
UBI for how many people? I mean, UBI is for everybody, right?
The proposal is to give $1,000 a month to every resident in San Francisco, and
those who have enough can refuse.
They can refuse. They can donate it to charity, but the funding mechanisms also involve pollution taxes.
Okay.
So if you're a large corporation, your chances are you're paying more into the system than any of your executives are making.
Okay.
It's $1,000 a month versus if you're a big polluter dumping a bunch of stuff in the ocean, then or emitting greenhouse gas emissions, then we're going to tax you on that, and you're going to pay much more into the system as a wealthy person.
I think Andrew Yang tried it.
He was a big proponent of it, and he's a big reason why he
actually tried it in New York. He actually did.
You mean giving
He
out
gave money.
Yeah, he's funded. So he started the Humanity First Foundation,
Where
and
they give
were
1,000
giving money
people
out.
to low income, not to
Yeah,
the
there's
rich.
another. You may have heard of Give Directly. They're
Oh.
an international nonprofit organization.
They also give away money.
They've done a lot of studies primarily in Africa, but they started in the United States as well with some communities in New Orleans, for example.
And they give money to low income.
They give money, but it's with a universal basic income. It's not focused only on low income.
Oh.
It's for people across the income spectrum.
Yeah, but that's too much money for us, no?
Well, I would argue we can't afford not to do this.
If you have 750,000 in San Francisco times 1,000, how much is that?
It's yeah, it's like, you know, a lot of money.
750 million.
But the point is that when we're giving people this money, what it is it's an investment in our own citizens. Mm-hmm. It's a vote of confidence.
What if the drug addicts turn around and buy drugs?
Well, that's why we have to have. I mean, no matter what you give to someone who's in the throes of drug addiction,
they're going to spend it on drugs.
They're potentially going to spend it on drugs. So we have to have effective interventions for people who are addicted to drugs.
Or not to give it to them.
So I mean, I have a whole other policy proposal that's based around the 4 pillars approach from Switzerland, and you know it involves prevention and harm reduction and treatment and law enforcement. And the treatment is the biggest part of that. That's the crucial part. If we're not putting people into an environment where it's clean, it's safe, and they have wraparound services.
But they have to do it voluntarily. We cannot force them.
At the point that they're on the street,
yeah,
in a public space,
yeah, we can.
We can.
Oh, really?
And we should.
Oh, no, because I took a picture on my way here. There was a guy bent, you know, when you do drugs, you bent.
Yeah.
And I'll show it to you after the show. But basically, you see that scene all the time. People who just shot their thing and they bent because, I don't know, the effect of the drug, right? And then you see them at bus stops everywhere. And the city just...
Switzerland was able to reduce their drug overdose deaths starting in 1994 when they implemented the 4 pillars to now. It reduced by I think it's 73%.
Really?
The home invasion burglaries they were having, that was reduced by 93%.
You mean they actually took care of their people?
So they focused on treatment first.
Yeah.
Take each person as an individual, understand why they became an addict and what they need to get on a path where they will either be completely sober or at least have control over their addiction so they can lead a normal life. And so they have people in Switzerland who, to this day, they've been in the program for 20 years now at this point, but they get their treatment every week, and they're able to take it home with them and administer it themselves now, and they have a normal life where they can hold down a job and they have a happy family life. They're not on the streets using all day every day like they used to. So we should do the same thing.
There's a guy at the Ferry Building, he's sitting there during the farmers market time, and I've seen him for the past 3 years or 4 years, and each time I see him I say, go to channel, get detox, and then come back. And every time I see him, like maybe every 6 months, every year, and I said, did you get detox yet? He said, not yet.
Yeah.
And I see another guy one time come to him, get the money he begged for, to give him drugs. So it's happening on the street right there in front of me.
Yeah, I don't think
they don't hide it.
Yeah, we can't live in a society where people are openly dealing and using drugs.
Yeah, but they do.
It's not healthy for our children. It's not fair to
for them
everyone
to see
else
that.
Who's living in the city to see that. It also just, on a personal human level, it's depressing. It's sad. Like, I think there's
there's nobody from the city that stops it.
We should, and
I mean, they see the dealer getting the money. They see the drug addict giving them the money, and the city just.
It starts with having a viable alternative that's indoors. It's a consumption room where people initially the first time we see someone on the street using, we say, hey, there's a new consumption room. It's down the street. Here it is. And we put them in places where there's a lot of addicts currently on the street. And we say, here's where you go when you feel like you need to get high. We're going to have you go here, and we're going to put you in touch with these wraparound services. We're going to have counseling for grief and trauma. We're going to have job training. We're going to have life coaching. It's a place where it's like a healing center for someone who is addicted to drugs. But if you can't get yourself to that room, as that is a viable alternative, and we're going to make it easy too. Like we're not even going to make you bring your own drugs. Like we have the
substitute.
We have the buprenorphine all ready to go, and we can make sure that you're not going to go into withdrawals, and we're going to slowly wean you off of it over time. But if you can't get yourself there, then at that point
you have to do it.
We have, as a city, have to say, okay, well, we gave you
a chance to do it on your own.
We gave you a good alternative that was actually way easier. And most people will take that alternative because why would you stay on the street and pay money to get your next high when you can go to this room and get it for free? And you're getting positive feedback on the fact that, hey, we're working with you, we believe in you, we're going to give you a second chance at life, you can do this, you can make it happen together with our help.
I know.
But then at that point, if someone's still on the street, then we have to put them in an in-house
like in the Tenderloin, like there's a police station, right? And they told me people do it right in front of the police and they're not scared. I mean, the police is trained to just close their eyes on it.
Yeah.
Is that normal?
I don't think it has become a new normal in San Francisco. I think most people have become immune to the problem,
and they're not afraid of the police.
We walk by, we see people that are motionless on the sidewalk. In any normal society, everyone would rush to try to find out if that person's alive. Because, oh my gosh, that's a human being. But instead,
I have called a couple times, and the cop said, "Did you touch the person? Make sure they're alive." And I said, "No, I didn't touch.
It's scary, right? You don't know what they're going to do to you."
No, I said, "I didn't touch. I just know that they're on the floor. I mean, on the ground." But I do report it when I see it. I mean, because there's a special number for that. It's not the 911. It's a number where they take care of non-emergency.
That actually brings up the Street Crisis Response Team, which is an alternative to police interaction with someone who's in the middle of mental health or drug crisis. I would like to see us expand that program significantly.
So it's not the policeman.
It's cheaper than having officers.
Officers are very
and
expensive.
It's more effective.
Yes.
Yeah, so places like Denver with their STAR program and Eugene, Oregon with Cahoots, they've demonstrated that it works.
Could do it.
They have evidence showing it's cheaper and it works better. They're community-based ambassadors that are riding along with medical professionals, and they can help this person get through this particular crisis. But we still need to have that alternative to help direct them towards and get them off of the street. And we don't have that right now either. So.
Okay, now this is a hard question. Since you're not in the polls, how do you measure your progress?
That's a great question because I'm not commissioning my own internal polls, but I'm trying to get on social media. Now.
Who is your expert to social media? He is?
I've got a couple people helping.
Oh, you do? Okay. I heard you have to post like at least every hour on Twitter or several times a day on Facebook, several times a day on Instagram. You cannot just let it blank for a whole day. You have to be every day several times.
Right.
To have traction.
And all the algorithms
it's a full-time job.
Yeah.
So
I'm testing out the theory that a normal person who's not part of the political class can actually run a campaign in the modern era with social media.
How can you
I don't know if I'll do it, but I'm trying. And aside from the social media part of it, when I'm walking around and I'm talking to people, I'll know that I'm succeeding the first time I talk to someone I've never met before, and they'll recognize me and say, "Oh yeah, I checked out your website and I thought it was
a nice
great."
Website.
Or I saw a sign of yours, and that's coming. You know, I'm still getting things ramped up. I started from scratch, no political experience. I'm building the plane as it's taking off, and so you know, I'm slowly figuring things out and gathering steam, and we're just about to hit overdrive.
And
so.
who will you work for to increase job creation so that the people that you won't need anymore in the city would be refunneled toward these new jobs?
So another of my my proposals is I would love to be a champion for the Bank of San Francisco, the Public Bank of San Francisco. There's currently a competition between several communities within California to see who can open up the first public bank. If we were able to do that, then we would have the ability to loan out money to small business
Isn't David
owners.
Chu working on it?
There's been a little bit of work here and there. It's not quite clear how much of a priority it's
is
being
on
made,
there.
but
Okay.
I would definitely make it a priority. And with that bank, we're able to provide much lower interest rate loans to small businesses than they
So
could
that they
otherwise get.
can hire people?
So that they can open up new businesses, so they can expand existing businesses, help them with buying properties that they're currently leasing out if the rent is a problem. I would love to get very creative and see all the different ways that we can support a very rich and vibrant small business community within the city. I think, you know, that's something that when I talk to people who lived here 40, 50 years ago, they talk about how sad it is that all their local record shops and bookstores and
Closing.
small mom and pop places that had been there for years closed because it just got too expensive to be in the city. So another thing I'd want to do is, you know, like let's stop nickel and diming these small businesses. You know, we have all these taxes and fees, and then it's so onerous for them to have to fill out all this paperwork. And I mean, let's just streamline all of that and make it should be easy to run a business in the city, and we need them. The reason it's great to live in San Francisco is the vibrancy, the fabric of the community, which is supported by all these small businesses that we have around us. And if we're not doing enough to support them and ensure that they can continue to survive, the city's just going to continue to die. The culture is just dying away.
They're also closed because we used to be 950,000, now we're down to 750,000 after the exodus out of San Francisco.
That's right. Yeah.
How are you going to bring these people back? I mean,
my barber, he's on 24th Street, and he talks about how
a lot of people
before
left
the pandemic. He had way more
business.
Walk-in. He just did walk-in all the time, no appointments. People would just walk in every day, and now at least he's probably down 40%.
But these people won't come back because of the high rents of San Francisco.
Yeah, so that's why I want to build universal social housing. I want to have a large stock of low rent options available for people, so no matter what your income level is, you'd be able to move into the city again, and you could at least afford rent. I'm talking aiming for about $1,000 a month rent for a one bedroom by getting creative, using a revolving loan fund where this is something that Montgomery County, Maryland has used very effectively. So they have a $100 million loan fund. They loan this money out to a private developer who builds a building, and then they pay it back. Because it's a loan, they're paying back with interest, and all that money goes back into the fund again, and you can reuse it. So it's a sustainable, revenue neutral way of building housing, but because it's paid for with majority public money, the city or the county in that case could stipulate, we say you can't have, you're not allowed to refuse anyone to live here if they have a Section 8 voucher, which can happen with private landowners here in San Francisco. So Section 8 vouchers will all be accepted here. They have wraparound services in many of their buildings. They're able to keep the rent manageable for people that are making lower to mid income range. And if we make it universal, then it would be much easier to get into that kind of housing. Currently, we have a problem where we have some mid-market housing that's available, but a lot of people, they either make just a little too much to get in, so they're screwed over by this income threshold that's pretty arbitrary. And that, they don't feel like they're rich, they're still struggling, right? Or they make under the threshold, but there's so much paperwork that it's just not even worth it for them. They can't figure it out.
I don't want to do
it.
I just don't want to do it.
Right.
Okay.
So making a universal program for housing, it could be available for anyone. It would be much more streamlined to get into that housing. And by having that stock within the city, it also puts a downward pressure on all the rent in the general private market, because you have all these public units that are as an option for people. You can choose as a renter where you want to live, right? So it becomes
since you worked for Tesla, Elon Musk has a company that builds mini homes for like 30,000 or less.
Yeah.
And he lived in one of them himself. And
I saw that, yeah.
And he sold all his expensive
in
properties.
Texas, yeah.
Now, suppose we do buy these homes that he's building on his company, where we would put them?
I don't know that I would want to make it all tiny homes like that.
Oh no!
But I would say that we have a lot of land in the city that is underutilized right now. I mean,
we can put these homes on.
Where's the housing that was supposed to go in at where Candlestick Park used to be? And I mean, look at all around the Bayview, Hunters Point, Potrero Hill. There's Excelsior. There's
a
lot of either empty buildings or more industrial kind of spaces, and they're not necessarily being used fully effectively anymore, and so you
need the developer to come in.
One of my other policy proposals is shifting the current property tax that we have that includes a tax on the buildings that you've built on top of the land.
Okay.
Shifting that over to a pure land value tax. So you only tax the value of the underlying land, which then stimulates developers to build up on land.
Okay.
And that's something that we've seen works very well in some
cities?
Towns in Pennsylvania that have adopted it. They find that
people have to vote on it.
Their main street will be revitalized within less than a decade in some cases. People have to vote on it as a tax, thanks to Prop 13.
Okay.
It's California makes it hard to raise new taxes, but I don't think we've seen that San Franciscans are not afraid to vote in new taxes. We've gotten many new taxes since I've been a citizen here. In the last 12 years, I can recall multiple taxes that we've imposed on ourselves. So I think if you make the right case for it and you clearly lay out what the benefits will be, then it's something that will be, some people will be willing to vote for it. Also, because I'm proposing that we replace one tax with another tax, it's sort of, depending on who you are, the average person is actually going to end up with less taxes in the long run.
Okay.
It's only really
so
the very wealthy,
it's going to be on the ballot then?
I'd love to put that on the ballot and propose it as part of a major tax overhaul for the city. We also have an issue where our gross receipts tax is keeping some businesses from coming into the city, and I think it's important for us to take a good long look at what incentive structures our taxes are putting in place and whether we're driving away business or not. In general, if you talk to economists, they'll tell you it's bad to tax productive behaviors, things that people are doing that actually improve the economy. If you tax that, they're going to do less of it, right?
Okay.
And it's a good thing to tax anything that is causing problems for other people.
Right.
So, releasing carbon, That's called negative externalities. So taxing
Okay.
negative externalities, carbon emissions, any kind of other kind of pollution, we should be taxing that. And then, land value tax, because if you're sitting on a vacant lot, not doing anything with it, you should pay just as much as someone who is sitting, right next to you on the lot next door with a high rise, because you're basically preventing someone else from building that high rise.
Mm.
So.
About cost of living, would you be for limiting the increase in some food to allow people with low income to afford food for the whole month? Because you can put a cap on the top 100 essential products at the supermarket so that people who need, let's say, milk and bread and, maybe a little bit of meat or whatever, be able to afford those products rather than spending all their money on food that is going up and up and up without limits.
I'm generally not a fan of specific types of subsidies like that, or vouchers type systems, because I think they lead to abuse sometimes, or they're just inefficient economically.
Okay.
So I'd always
you got to track down who needs them or not.
Exactly. It's also a gatekeeper. It's another hoop someone needs to jump through in order to get that help that they need.
Oh,
so
okay.
That's why I'm much more in favor of a universal basic income. It's cash, so you could use it for anything. And if it's universal, then anyone gets it. They don't have to go through some.
And you don't care how they spend it.
It's not for me to be the nanny state and tell someone how they're supposed to spend their own money. I'm entrusting that other people know better than I do what they need to spend their money on. And it's often the case that people are dealing with an unexpected emergency expense that can lead to them going down this downward spiral that leads towards homelessness. So, for example, there's a story of someone who they had a job as a security guard. Their washing machine broke down, so they couldn't wash their uniform. They had to go to work the next day. They had a stain on the uniform.
Oh no!
They got fired from the job. No. Now you have no job. You can't pay your car payments. You can't pay because you had your gas your washing machine broke down.
Oh.
We can't predict that. It doesn't make any sense for us as a city to say, okay, we're going to give you a voucher to fix your washing machine. Just give people the money, and on any given month, whatever emergency comes up, they can use that money to deal with it.
Yeah. Never heard that story, but I can understand it could happen. Also, people who need their car to go to work, and then the city tows it, and then they don't have the money to take it out the tow place, and that's also some.
I've had that happen.
Yeah, so
it's $1,000.
Yeah,
mistake.
So when that happens and the person doesn't have it right away, then they lose their job because they cannot get to work.
Exactly.
Yeah, so they have to work on all these issues. There's so many issues to be worked on.
It's a mess. It's getting more and more complicated. We're living in a modern age where things are so complex. We have technology that's going at full speed ahead and changing things more quickly than we can even comprehend. And that's another reason why I am running, because I want to at least inspire other people who have a background in science and technology to get involved in government, because I think we need that perspective. We need that expertise in place.
And who these people exist, or they already have high-paying job in tech companies?
I think there's a problem with they look at how much they can make versus in the private sector, but also there's a general widespread and probably mostly accurate impression that if you work in the government, it's going to be miserable. There's so much red tape and bureaucracy that you have to deal with as an employee that you can't really do your job effectively. And so we need to change that also.
The way the city works.
We need to streamline the way the city works and empower our city employees to do the jobs that we're entrusting them with without having to worry about a million forms. Automate as much as we possibly can. Use technology to its greatest effect. And I have that kind of expertise, again, from my experience with Tesla. So I could bring in the right people that would actually accomplish that goal of digitizing all of our records and automating the permitting processes. There's so many places where we have inefficiencies, and part of that is also, as a city employee, we're putting people in a position where we're kind of tying their hands, and we need to let them do their job. So,
are you for the idea, like Mark Farrell, bringing employees back into the offices 4 days a week to revitalize the economy downtown?
Yeah, I think so. I'm a fan of hybrid approaches to work. Depending on the role, what you're doing may or may not require you to be in the office, and so I think it should be a case-by-case basis.
But for the tech company downtown, should they be required to ask their employees to bring them to work 4 days a week?
No, I think
it's hard to control.
I think the city should not be in the business of telling companies
what to do,
how to interact with their employees.
So how are you going to bring those? It used to be a huge amount of people going downtown to work. How are you going to bring them back rather than work from home?
I want us to get very creative. I want us to put everything on the table. Some of the buildings we can convert into residential. It's very difficult and expensive for the most part, though. So that's not going to fix everything.
It's not tomorrow.
We have we have businesses that are down in South San Francisco, Daly City, that we could potentially entice to move up into San Francisco if we work with them on understanding what are the barriers. I think there's a lot of red tape that they don't want to deal with.
Oh, okay.
They can much more easily be down there, but maybe they'd rather be in San Francisco if we made it easier for them. And I'm not talking about huge tax breaks and incentives of subsidies for these companies. I'm just talking make it easy to run a business and survive as a business without the city unduly imposing all kinds of restraints and barriers to running a business.
I don't remember. I think
straightforward.
I heard that Texas would offer something for people to move there. I mean, I know besides the tax part, but they would also offer lodging.
And Safai, you mentioned him earlier. I think at one point he was proposing, let's try to get Hollywood to come over, and film more in the city by giving them a bunch of tax breaks.
Oh, okay.
I'm not in favor of that. It doesn't work. It ends up costing us more than we'll ever get back. So I don't want to use public money to enrich private industry. Okay. I'm just saying I think we need to, as much as possible, get out of the way. Have very clear and reasonable regulations where they make sense, and then the rest of it should be simple and straightforward and predictable, so companies can do what they need to do to create the future of technology or whatever it is. I'd love to see Plenty. They're an indoor vertical farming company.
On buildings they built.
I'd love to see them come into downtown and convert a lot of these buildings into indoor vertical farms, and then we can have self-sufficient city that's resilient to
grow
terrorist
their own food.
attack. Growing our own food, and that could help with the issue you mentioned earlier. If the city is growing its own food within the city, food should be a lot cheaper than when we're growing it in farms out in the Central Valley and trucking it in.
I've seen people they grab the tomatoes and they have it for lunch.
And we'd have less pollution, less traffic. If we're not having all these trucks coming in. So
they have done it in some buildings in China. I heard.
Where
the employees just go grab their food off the trees.
So I think we just have to get more creative and be more bold and fearless.
It can be tried. You never know.
Let's look towards the future, and let's have hope and positivity and imagine the world we want to live in, and then work to make it that way. And we can get there. I really believe that. We just need to work hard, and we need to work together and create a better future for all of us.
Okay, so looks like Honest is telling us to wrap it up.
Okay.
So I, I think you touched on quite a few points. I wanted to thank you for presenting them to us. I'm sure there are many other things to talk about, but maybe another time. But it looks like you do know what you're talking about, and you seem to be like a very, very good candidate. So I wish
Thank you.
you to win.
I appreciate
You never
that.
know.
Yeah.
You'll be on the ballot.
You'll rank me number one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why not?
Thanks. All right. I
Why
appreciate that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm a serious candidate, and you know I am very
And
proud of my success.
what's your name on the ballot?
Dylan Herschel.
Oh, Dylan.
I'm the only Dylan, so I'm my logo is just Dylan for Bear.
Oh, it's alphabetical, right?
No, they'll pick the order randomly.
It's not
yeah,
alphabetical.
I haven't picked it yet, but
yeah, D is pretty close to the top, but if you say it's not going to be alphabetical.
no, it won't be.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, then we'll find out. Thank you so much. Have a great
Thanks, Eileen.
afternoon.
You too.
Keep working. You have 3.5 months to
Yep,
go.
we're going full steam ahead here. So thanks
Okay.
thanks for the opportunity to come here and talk to you.
My pleasure, and good luck. Thank you.
Thank you.
We did